Bonnie's Insider is brought to you by Universal Primary Care, providing care for the entire family.
Hello and welcome to Bonnie's Insider, brought to you by Universal Primary Care. I'm your host, Tommy Valentine. Well, student athletes are back and beginning to practice here at St. Bonaventure, and each week Bonnie's Insider will take you on a deep dive inside Bona's athletics. We'll be talking with the athletic director, administrators, coaches, alumni, and of course, our talented student athletes. Today's show features an interview with a pair of women's soccer players, seniors Alex Thompson and Darion Marison. We'll also have the opportunity to hear from men's head soccer coach Kwame Oduro. But first, we caught up with athletic director Tim Kenney as he talks about how COVID-19 has affected the St. Bonaventure Athletic Department in our first installment of From the AD's Office.
Well, when the virus started to really hit around March, when we had to cancel the Atlantic 10 tournament, it seems like a decade ago as opposed to today, because there was really a ton of unknowns. I do think that unpredictability of this virus is the one thing that really sticks out right now, that you can't get everyone on the same page to tell you how you treat it. You have to be very careful and diligent in what you're doing and what you're basing your plans on. We put together protocols for the student athletes that started when they were home. 2 weeks prior to them coming here on campus, we asked them to quarantine at home. Just stay within the bubble of what you've been. You had to get a test and had to come back negative. Phase 2 is when they got here on campus. So what we were doing was you have their physicals. They get trained as to what are the protocols they have to follow. They have to fill out their app in the morning that fills out the symptoms. Athletes are creatures of habit and they're used to routines. This was changing up their normal routine. So there was a lot of education in this phase 2 and getting them prepared with their physicals and getting another round of tests in before they could start what we call phase 3, which is a return to play. And the return to play is not just right away you throw the ball out, you start playing, or you go out on the field. It's first and foremost was really conditioning of the bodies, because they really haven't had the opportunity to work out like they're normally used to since March. From there, after 2 weeks, they're going to be able to do more organized practices and be able to really start their normal routines of practicing. And then another 2 weeks after that, they're full bore. The protocol plan that we put together is in this big, nice, thick document. And one of the challenges we recognized was making sure it was easy to read, number one, but also two, trying to make a cheat sheet in a sense. So what are the key points we want to have our student athletes know? There's a lot of touch points that go in with these student athletes now to keep reminding them, not only of the protocols, but the responsibilities, because it's all of us now. Best laid plans are there, but if you choose not to follow them or choose to do something that jeopardizes everything that's going on here, then this whole thing could just have to shut down. So we have to keep reinforcing that. And that's a very, very important part now of our message to the kids, because there will be fatigue setting in. If there's not a lot of cases popping up at all, after a while people are like, why am I having to do this? And we have to keep reinforcing that. And that's one thing we're monitoring. And we're calling it the COVID fatigue. We have to make sure the kids keep understanding we're not out of the woods. All right, we've had a good first 2 weeks. Now we have to keep going. We got to wear our masks. We got to wash our hands. You got to follow these protocols to a T, because they're there to protect you. But one of the things we've been trying to instill in them is that leadership extends well beyond the playing field, the court, the pool. You have to be leaders to show that this is how you do the right stuff for this campus. People look at you. It's not just one team where the basketball team is the most visible. It's everybody, because you know what? When they know you're on the soccer team, they also know you're putting in long hours there. You also have to do class and everything else, and you're doing it. So it's inherently looked at as a leadership role that some of these student athletes will be having to play out in the community. And so what we've done and told them is, on campus, you're the leaders. Doesn't mean you're going around telling people you have to wear your mask. No, you lead by example a lot of times. It's going to take everybody on this campus, not just athletics, to make this semester a success. And so far, we feel very good about it, but we can't let up. We can't be naive to think it's not going to sneak in onto campus. A big part of our planning and thought process, not just in athletics, but on the campus, has been, what if something pops up? First question came down to, well, how do we know if something pops up if they're asymptomatic? That comes into the sample testing. You have these pods of people that live together, might be in classes together, working out together. We've done this specifically so we could test one of that pod, and if they come back negative, we could feel fairly certain that the rest of that are there, whether they're roommates or teammates within it, don't have it, because if one of them has it, more likely that's where it's going to spread. When we look at the test now, we sit there and say, okay, one popped up. What happens now? So immediately we have quarantine rooms on campus. If a member of a team gets test positive, the whole team's going to be put in a quarantine. And we're going to retest and possibly test the whole team. We say possibly because if the second test for the individual comes back negative, then we'll do even a third, while the kids are still in quarantine in their room. On top of that, the school traces where they were sitting in class. They're seating charts in class now to contact trace to see who's around them, quarantine them, and get them tested right away. A lot of it is mitigation and containment. We had to make sure we have a good response if someone gets it. And we feel very comfortable right now with this, because then the health department steps in and then they take control of the quarantine portion and monitoring and getting the next test, and then telling us when the infected individual can be released. One of the great things throughout this whole process has been the support from the Bonnie family, the fans, the alumni, parents of our student athletes. They have all been phenomenal and willing to help. In the end, I couldn't thank the Bonnie Nation enough. They've been absolutely incredible throughout this whole thing.
Great information there from Tim Kenney, and yes, thank you, Bonnie Nation. The St. Bonaventure Athletic Department has administered more than 600 COVID-19 tests on campus to its student athletes with only one positive result. That student athlete was asymptomatic, but was subsequently tested twice more using two different methods of testing, with both of those results coming up negative. We're just getting started here on Bonnie's Insider. After the break, we'll hear from men's head soccer coach Kwame Oduro. You're watching Bonnie's Insider, brought to you by UPC.
Away from campus? No problem. You can follow Go Bonnies wherever you are on Instagram and Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Keep up with all your favorite squads. And don't forget to use the hashtag Unfurl.
You'll light candles with strangers the day you arrive, and extinguish them with lifelong friends the day you leave this place. A place that will transform your life, inside and outside the classroom. A place where you'll learn to care about each other, and about others you never imagined caring about. A place where people help you believe in yourself. For 160 years, St. Bonaventure University has helped good students become great people.
Away from campus? No problem. You can follow Go Bonnies wherever you are on Instagram and Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Keep up with all your favorite squads. And don't forget to use the hashtag Unfurl.
Welcome back to Bonnie's Insider, brought to you by UPC. The St. Bonaventure men's soccer team has been steadily climbing the ranks of the A10 since the arrival of Kwame Oduro in 2014. In this next segment, we sit down with a 6-year veteran head coach as he shares his thoughts on how the pandemic has affected his team in the portion of the show we call Coach's Corner.
It was a little difficult because every country has its own kind of rules and laws pertaining to COVID. There were some that the idea of coming to New York was like appalling, right? Like, well, you going to New York? What are you doing? This COVID's happening, right? We had to, some of them I had to sit with their parents and on Zoom and kind of describe what was happening around where we were and kind of ease them a little bit. It just depended on where they were coming from, and we had guys on hot spots. So we had to deal with that too. So each kid was a little different. We got a lot of Western New York guys, so that was a little easier. Pittsburgh guys was easy, but each one was a little different. It was very difficult to try to keep track of all of that stuff and make it work. But I thought the school did a good job, and we did a good job getting them here. Yeah, I think when every one of our players got here, it was like, all right, can we go play? Can we go play? And obviously we needed to wait a little bit just to make sure that everybody was, negative. And I think the anxiety kind of built it up to the point where when we did get on, like, all right, their excitement is even at a higher level. So, like, aside from just being on the field, I think they were just happy just to connect. It's like having a best friend, and your parents are telling you can't play with that person for 6 months or 5 months, and then finally you get to see them again and you get to play. So, I think for our boys, just the excitement of being on the soccer field with the ball at your feet, it's indescribable, to be honest. And, for us as coaches, just to be back doing the things that we love. We can't recruit right now, so the last thing was be able to get on the field and train with our boys. So it's been great, having them just the smiles on their face and getting to do what we do and love most. Our goal every year is to be in the playoffs, whether it's 6 teams that are making the playoffs, whether it's 8 teams that are making the playoffs, that's our goal, Obviously last year we didn't get there. I think if the season had went longer, we finally started picking it up. And I just can't wait to kind of get back at it again, because I think we're going to be a good team with a year under our belt for some young guys and some of the older guys. We can definitely make some noise. So I just can't wait to get back and competing against other teams.
Coach Oduro, we're all looking forward to your team returning to action in the spring. Stick around for our player profile segment coming up next as we get to know the only 2 seniors on the women's soccer team. You're watching Bonnie's Insider, brought to you by UPC.
Away from campus? No problem. You can follow Go Bonnies wherever you are on Instagram and Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Keep up with all your favorite squad. And don't forget to use the hashtag Unfurl.
What's the best way to pick the right college? Use your head and make a practical choice based on cost and academics? Or follow your heart to a place that just feels right? At St. Bonaventure, you can do both. Here, you'll join a unique community that celebrates individuality, meet professors as passionate about people as they are about learning, and form lifelong connections without a lifetime of debt. Come see for yourself why St. Bonaventure isn't just a special place, it's a smart choice.
Away from campus? No problem. You can follow Go Bonnies wherever you are on Instagram and Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Keep up with all your favorite squad. And don't forget to use the hashtag Unfurl.
Thanks for sticking around with us here on Bonnie's Insider, brought to you by UPC, where we transition into our first player profile. Today we visit with senior women's soccer players Alex Thompson and Darion Marison, who share their thoughts on their upcoming senior season.
As the only 2 seniors on the roster this year, I think we were kind of ready for the expectations on us, and I think obviously this year is very different for everyone, so we just wanted to make sure the freshmen are comfortable coming in, because they didn't have preseason to get to know us like usual. So when we started practice, I know it was a little difficult for them, and then we just wanted everyone to be ready to practice and just prepared for what could happen or what isn't happening as in our season.
Yeah, we're dealing with a lot of uncertainty right now. We never really know what to expect. We're just taking everything week by week and just trying to keep communications at the best.
As a defender, I think we just can't let anyone score. I know that's a given, but it hypes you up, because it's more, I think you have more pressure on you, just because if you make a mistake, that's the goal's right there, and you're the last line to defend, so it's harder. But I think it helps us have a bigger leadership role, because we get to see the whole field, we get to communicate and kind of just show everyone where to go, help them defending wise and offensive wise. My favorite memory of Bonnie's women's soccer so far, I feel like everyone says this one, but it's a classic. Last year when we beat UB 1-0, and it was last minute goal. Maddie Mason headed in. It was fantastic.
Pretty electric.
Yeah. I think it was our home opener, so there was a lot of people there for our team especially. So it was great to win in front of everyone.
Look at this, jumps on Maddie Mason, swarming her.
Best of luck to Alex and Darion this season. We're expecting big things from the Bonnie's women's soccer team, with those 2 leading the charge. Before we wrap things up on Bonnie's Insider, we've got one more segment to bring you. We call it Man on the Street. Let's take a look.
Really different just in terms of the timeline, because we're usually here, first week of August, and didn't have to come back all the way until, late August. So it's just weird being here in the fall and not having a season right now. And it's going to be weird coming back in the winter and then having to prepare for a season in the spring. It's just good to be out here with them and get back to playing, because we've been off so long. But so far practice has been going good, and we're just hoping that we are able to, keep going.
When I first came in, I was actually quarantined since I'm an international student, so they threw me in isolation really quick. Every 2 days we got a test. So the first week was pretty hard, getting tests, quarantining, all that, sorting that stuff out. But worked itself out. Non-contact training for the first 2 weeks. It's been hard, but we're getting through it. Usually I have a routine, stuff like that. Grab the ball with my hands, feel the ball out a bit, but I can't do that. I can't spit on my gloves. That kind of thing, like regular stuff that I usually do, I can't do anymore. So you just got to be mindful of that.
It's been great to be back with the team again and out here. We were all really sad with the abrupt ending, so it's definitely so nice to be back. And now this is definitely something we don't take for granted because there are athletes who have been sent home. We definitely don't want to be those people, and we're so glad to just have this opportunity to play together right now. One thing I've noticed is that how much we've emphasized staying in the Spano bubble, and we've all seen how critical it is to maintain those standards that we set. I think that the biggest challenge so far has been lifts, trying to keep the mask on while we're lifting because it can get hot. But overall, the challenges haven't been too bad.
It's been awesome being back at campus, back with my friends and my teammates, back in-person classes, way better than Zoom. I appreciate everything that the teachers and my coaches are doing to make the adjustment as easy as possible. One change that I definitely noticed a lot this year, especially with the heat, is all the water fountains are closed off, which is good and bad. It's such a minor inconvenience for just such a bigger picture, but you realize you gotta stay hydrated especially, so it's a little inconvenient.
It's kind of weird because you're usually trying to get your timing down with competing and everything else, but right now we're just focusing on getting the team back on the field for the season in the spring. We're all working as a team to really come across this and be one big family and get through this together.
Campus has definitely been a little different, or very different. Being able to see the team finally and get on the field again has been great. Definitely weird not having the whole team being on the field at the same time, but I'm excited for everyone to come together eventually. Classes have been very different, obviously. We're all 6 feet apart and socially distancing. I'm going for education, so I'm doing my field block this year. We're waiting for the schools to let us come in, so that's kind of nerve-wracking, but we're excited for that.
We hope you enjoyed the first edition of Bonnie's Insider, and we'll have plenty more headed your way in the coming weeks. Next week, we have SBU women's lacrosse alumna and Hall of Famer Ebony Preston, cross-country coach Bob McFarland, and men's soccer player Mitch Wambach. That last name sound familiar? Well, it should. His aunt just happens to be one of the greatest women's soccer players of all time. I hope to see you right back here next week on Bonnie's Insider. I'm Tommy Valentine. So long, and thanks for watching.
Bonnie's Insider has been brought to you by Universal Primary Care, providing care to the entire family.